Welcome to the eCommerce Profitability Show, a podcast by Link My Books. We speak with profitable e-commerce store owners and experts to help your e-commerce business become profitable. Because revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. I'm your host, Dan Little. Joining us today is Shanya, a change maker, creative thinker, and award-winning entrepreneur on a mission to revolutionise the fashion industry through the circular movement. Shanya is not just an entrepreneur, she's a disruptor challenging the norms of the fashion world. As the founder of Rntr, she has created a re-commerce plugin that empowers fashion brands to embrace sustainability by renting out and reselling their products directly from their own websites. Shanya's achievements extend beyond her professional career. She was the first recipient of the TWOGOOD grant, recognized as an industry speaker, and nominated for the Yarra Sustainability Awards, a testament to her commitment to making a positive impact. Shanya, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the show.
Thank you. It was a great intro. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really bigging you up there, you see. Okay, so jumping straight in. So you've always had a passion for fashion since the early age. What specific moment or realization prompted you to turn your passion for fashion into a thriving fashion enterprise?
Like, fashion has a really personal connection with me since a young age. And I've never really thought of it as a career until I moved to Australia. And then I actually was a pastry chef, and then I just needed a little break and then move into like a retail industry just to do a little quick break. And then I think that's when it like sort of ignite that, wait, actually, this is something I'm super interested in and something I'm actually really good at. So that's probably kind of when I just sort of like, okay, let's explore this a little bit better. I did love was when I was pastry chef, but I think the hours was just insane. And I say that now, but then now that I'm running a startup, yeah, started off as having my own brands, and at the time 2009, I think it was way before sustainability was a thing. I mean, it was always a thing, but it was before everyone know that it needed in the industry and all this. But yeah, so but I wanted to be able to pay people properly. I wanted the good quality, and I wanted an affordable price. And then I ran the brand for a couple of years and then realized that it's not possible. So I was just kind of like, oh my God, this is really hard. How do you compete with all these big other brands? But at the time, you were kind of like, well, how did they produce it so cheaply? Like, you still didn't even really know, right? And then I realized that, okay, well, to be able to compete with that price point, someone somewhere along the line has to pay for it. And if it's not your consumer, it's not you, then often it's somewhere along the supply chain. So that's kind of when I realized that, okay, that's going to be too hard. And I guess that's kind of like sort of moved me into styling. And a few years into styling, that when I realized that, like, all right, I want to be part of the solution now. I watched the documentaries and I was in tears, and I was just kind of, I just couldn't go on my day sort of telling people to buy more and buy more and buy more anymore. So that's when I decided that I want to be part of the solution and start stepping into the tech industry.
So talk to me about Rntr and the gap in the market that's helping to solve. What specific observations or experiences led you to identify that gap in the market?
Yeah, so well, I actually started my very first startup in 2016, and that was like almost like the first iteration of what Rntr was. Like I mentioned before, always see it as it's like, how do I find a solution for this industry that I love? Like, I really do love this industry. It's allowing me to express myself. It's like my second best friend. It's important to me. But also at the same time, and also when I was doing the stylings, right, I would take, someone out for shopping for 2 to 4 hours, and I can actually see them transforming. It's actually like in the movie. That's why every single rom-com have that makeover scene. It's empowering people. So I don't want people to have limited option, but then also realizing that I need to find a different way to supply that demand. So I guess that's when the first idea of startup came about, which it was called Tumnus. And Mr. Tumnus, he was a fawn, and he was the first character that interacting with human. So he was kind of like an ambassador in this magical world. So I call him like Tumnus. And so the app was called Tumnus. It was meant to be like Tinder app to match you with your style sister in your local area, so you can like swap clothes for 3 to 5 weeks at a time. You can borrow each other clothes. And that's when I started to realize, like, okay, the tech industry is completely different than the fashion industry. Because you know how, like, I wanted to step into the fashion industry, I'm going to create my own brand. So now I wanted a tech platform. So I'm like, okay, let's go build one. And then I got a quote, came back for like $300,000. And I was like, okay, let me come back later. So I have to do a lot of learning and Googling. And I actually built the MVP myself, which is like basically not coding, but patching all the softwares available to make it work like I want it to be, just because I don't have money to pay anyone else. And I think for me, it was important. It was more important to test the concept whether would people go beyond buying? Would people actually borrow if you have access? If you're allowed to, would people do that? And for me, it's like it doesn't have to cost $300,000 to validate that concept, right? So I rolled it out, and within the first couple months, we probably got about 500 active users, which was amazing. It was mainly in Melbourne, and you started to see the imbalance of the community between the borrower and the lender. And then more and more, they kind of sort of like, okay, I'm not really borrowing, but I'm happy for people to lend it out. So I'm going to send this clothes to you, and you can manage it for us. And then the borrower was like, oh, this is actually easier. Instead of like going to people's house or contact people one by one, I can just contact Tumnus, the admin. And more of that started to happen. It becomes somewhere we were kind of like, well, we need to monetize this somehow. So I was like, okay. Then we launched a second startup called Closet, like Coclo, and basically collecting all the clothes, put them into capsule collection, use my styling skill, and then rent them out this time so that people get a kickback as well. So rent them out for 5 weeks at a time. And I remember I built the MVP myself as well, launched it out with like 26 capsule collection. And within 3 or 4 weeks, we had like, I think it was like nearly 4,000 people sign up. Like the demand was there. I was like, oh wow, people really, really wanted this. It's either demand was really there or we were charging like really cheap. So I was like, okay, this is amazing. So we know the demands are there. And we got like about 1,000 items sent into the warehouse, which is my 1 bedroom apartment. And it's a smoke and mirror. And then literally we were growing, and that was just like a concept where we haven't taken money, and we just wanted to advertise, right? Then one of my mentors sort of like, you're growing really fast, you're doing really well, pull me aside, like let's step aside, let's pause for a moment and think about why is this still answering your why do you want to do this? And then for me, I was kind of like, all right, well, there's two things happening with Coclo. First, I started to see the challenge. So basically, I've got 1,000 items sent in, and every single one of them come in one size. So if I were to create collection, I would have to create like, so each site will have a very few collections, which means each site would only fit a small group of people. So then inventory is going to become my actual problem. It's going to be like, okay, well, this one style, it can only go out to one particular group of people. So that was one of the issue. And I was kind of like, I'm not sure how we're going to fix that yet. Park it. And then when my mentor asked me, is this still answering your why? I think I had a chance to actually think about what am I actually trying to do here? And then I realized that what I'm trying to do is I wanted to create change on a larger scale. And then what I've been doing is actually to validate that the re-commerce market, the rental resale, the secondary market has been growing. There's a demand there. The consumers are ready for it. And it happened while like people are doing it themselves, essentially. It's a peer-to-peer market, because essentially what we were doing, it's just a peer-to-peer, right? It's to the point where the consumers are creating that demand themselves and monetizing that themselves. And it's become one of the fastest growing economy within the fashion industry. And then I was like, but it will never become a real solution for the industry if the fashion brands cannot step in and actually start participating and start monetizing and making profit from the secondary market. Because It doesn't matter how many times I rent a year or buy secondhand clothes, brand essentially going to produce at exact the same rate that they are doing, because there's no relation here. They're just gonna convince you to buy more brand new, and then just go, okay, yeah, but then you can go and sell it somewhere else. You can go and rent it. You can make more money there, but I'm still going to produce at this exact same rate, which essentially the two economies just growing side by side and actually have zero impact between each other. So that's when I realized that we need to build a bridge, something really easy for brands to be able to take on and low investment, and then for them to be able to step in and participate in the economy straight away. And that's when I actually never launched Coclo. We apologized to 4,000 people, sent 1,000 items back, and then I started building the MVP of Rntr.
Mm-hmm. And so have you got any businesses that are already doing this, any e-commerce businesses that are already using Rntr, and how has that been?
Yeah, it's been amazing. So we kick it off with 6 brands end of 2021, and now it's been about 2 years. So last quarter, we actually went live with Oroton. I'm not sure if you know, but they are one of the biggest brand in Australia. It's been around for 85 years. We're talking like top tier brand, like touching that luxury. So that's been like one of the massive milestone for us. So, and then the pipeline for this quarter is super strong. So the fact that like it's been 2 years, we've been collecting case study, we've been seeing how we're benefiting brands. It's actually going on beyond like the dollars that they're getting back in, into the store. And one of the things that when we talk to brands and we let them know is that people that's going to benefit the most from the secondary market is going to be brand. If someone can purchase your item full price and make money of it, imagine what you can do because you actually have those garments at the cost price. So we basically just tell brands that this secondary market that has already been proven, that is growing really, really fast, is going to be the lowest investment for you to step in because you don't have to make any more clothes. We all know you always have surplus. And you've been building your brand equity for years and years and years, and it's just a leaking bucket because there's this secondary market that people are interacting with your brand without your control. You don't get to say how their journey look like. You don't even know who they are. You don't get to bring them to be part of the brand and then continue to nurture them. And all of these things is just completely cut out from the brand. And the only reason that people can make money from your design and your clothing is because you've been building this brand equity for so long, and now someone else has capitalized on it.
They are using it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like, think about it, guys. You don't even have to test this new market. It's been proven, it's growing. All you have to do is literally step in. And there's no point you building anything in-house, because if you don't build your e-com platform in-house yourself, like why would you go build another inventory software? So that's why we built Rntr for brands to be able to easily integrate, and then we handle all the logistic behind the scenes so they don't even have to worry about anything. It's just the additional income.
So how does it actually work then? So take me through it.
So you will, as a consumer, you'll be able to go to your favorite brands, and on the product page, right next to add to cart button, there'll be a rent with Rntr button, or like just a rent from. So basically all in one place, you can buy brand new or you can select rent. And that's the site for rental. And then for resales, it's basically if you purchase something from your favorite brand and then 6 months later, you log back into your customer account, then right next to your past purchase, there'll be like a resale button. Resale and repair, actually, we're just about to launch repair as well. So there'll be a resale or repair button right next to your past purchase. So when you select resales and then upload your current photo of the garment, it pre-populated back on the pre-loved page on the brand website. So basically the brand's becoming a marketplace of their own brand.
Okay. So then next customer, so customer B then comes along and they want to purchase that pre-loved or whatever it's called, like garment. That then, does the customer A then ship it directly to them? Do they get like a pre-filled label or something like that? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so they can do that as well. So it's depend on the brand. So when they integrated our software, they can choose to do completely hands off, peer to peer, just get them a shipping label and ship it off. We work with, so one of our first resale brand was Bridal, Karen Willis Homes, and again, like one of those institution brand in Australia. And I wasn't sure how this was going to go because it was bridal. I don't have a lot of experience. And literally within the first 24 hours launch, we had over 100 listings just went up. I was like, oh my God, people are ready to sell their wedding dress. And I'm like, it kind of makes sense. You wear it once. What are you going to do with it? Right? And then also, sure, like you kind of like, I'll pass it on to my daughter. And then like, have you checked with your daughter if like they actually want it? Now we see more and more trend is basically people will sell it and buy almost like a Chanel bag or something, which could be easily passed on to like, you know what I mean? And it's actually grow in value as well. So bridal has been pretty amazing in the e-commerce market. So we launched, but because bridal is like it's massive, right? Like item, like the dresses and stuff. So we just do peer to peer purely. So they get shipping level, they send it to the buyer. All of that and every single process along the way, we just monitor it. And as soon as get tick approved, then the money get released to the seller. Yeah. And then we also can offer consignment and buyback program. So brand can actually go, if you want to upload this item, you can choose to actually get a small credit voucher straight away and the item come back belong to the brand again. And then the brand sell it at whatever price point that they wanted to do.
Yeah, smart actually. So I can imagine that when the brand is getting a bit of a kickback here as well, that's then helping them with profitability of their sales in general, because they're selling it once brand new at full price, and then that item could then potentially be resold multiple times again, and they are getting a percentage of that resale each and every time. So it is, as you say, a no-brainer for brands, I suppose.
Yeah, like literally there's no roadblock here and one of the questions that I've got asked like quite a lot every time we pitch to brand is that, well, is directly on our website, is this going to cannibalize our business? It's always pop up to mostly the CFO who just want to make sales, right? We've just literally proven with one of our biggest brand and a few of other brands as well that over 60% of people that participate through either rental or resale of your brand is actually new to the database. They actually never interact with the brand before. That's 60%. And you've got 30% who's only really purchased your discount item on sales only. And then you've got the 10% who's your full price customer, but were only participating in rental or resale or buy secondhand because the item's sold out and they can't buy full price anymore. So it's literally zero cannibalization. It's pretty incredible. And then you get to keep them all and nurture them, and essentially they will become your full price customer.
Yeah, and then they still get that experience of buying directly from the brand as well. Because I know my wife recently bought a Chanel bag, and one of the things that she liked about that was that she got to go into the store and she got to have that experience. And I think that whilst this is not going into a store, I can imagine that you're still buying directly from that well-known brand's website. It's you got the trust and the feel of that brand. So yeah, I can see it being quite cool. How is this helping their, so in these case studies you've been doing, how is it helping their sustainability? Are you measuring that as an outcome as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the whole foundation of what we're trying to do is essentially we want brands to grow with less product. We want them to achieve the commercial target without actually having to produce more item. Because I don't know if you know, but 70% of emission of each item is actually coming from producing. So for us, the whole idea is about increasing utilization of that garment. Especially we're talking about the garment that for special occasion, coming back to your wife, how many times did she buy a gown that would only wear it once or twice, right? And those items have super low utilization and they have really high emission from producing. So for us, if we use the sharing economy and then people can actually rent it and pay per wear essentially, or if they can resell it and then a few more people get to actually wear it, then that's mean those utilization, each time someone get to wear it, we actually offset those emission from the production in the first place. So for us, all of those things, we actually give brand a report as well of almost like how much carbon footprints are we saving through all this like multiple resale and multiple rental. It's very, very important for us to actually be able to know that we we're actually making a difference, like a positive impact in the industry. It's a hard journey for me, like really, really, really hard. And if I'm actually not making a positive impact, I don't have to do it. It's not an easy journey.
Yeah, but I think it might be worth it because I'm just reading here that the global re-commerce market is predicted to reach $77 billion by 2025, with substantial growth in outpacing fast fashion. So what opportunities does this trend offer e-commerce businesses in the fashion industry, do you think?
Or massive opportunity, to be honest. And I think one of the thing that, like, if you have a premium brand, one thing that you would know is that, like, you can't really compete with fast fashion because of the price point, right? You can't lower your price point because you can't lower your quality. So this is a massive opportunity for them to be able to offer access rather than ownership through rental. So rather than people actually paying a cheaper price to own a fast fashion item that would not look good on them and would only last a few times, they actually now have a chance to be part of a brand that they actually aspire, they love. We all love these premium brands, whether we can afford or not. It's just a different story. So for brands, take this opportunity for them to actually not having to lower the integrity of the brand, not lower the price, not lower the quality, but actually able to interact with a different group of target market and actually capitalize on that as well. It's like a really good way for them to be able to compete with fast fashion essentially.
That's the changes that they need to make. Is there anything else that these businesses need to do? So when they come to work with you and Rntr, if they are a brand, say they're a brand and they're selling these goods brand new only, what sort of transition do they need to make in order to be able to A, rent out their products, and B, have this resale market?
Well, apart from the digital, they don't have to do much. It's very like, and the digital bit is like non-intrusive in a way. What we talk to them about is that, like, for example, we launched with Oroton in the past 3 months, and now we're talking about the next collection drop. Now their product team is actually thinking differently of what type of product are we actually making now? What type of fabric can we use? And also because it's rental, which means height starting to become a problem. A gown might get too long and it's get really dirty, or pantsuits and all of that thing. So product design become something that they start thinking about. Wait, what if we were making a garment that can be moved, shortened temporarily, all of this thing, which is super cool. I thought about it that way before. And then some of the brand that actually their clothings are not catered for rental. Their creative team have an opportunity to create like a small exclusive collection that is not available to purchase, but it's super fancy. They can be like creative and it's like higher price point than it usually be. And then you just rent it out. And yeah, that's basically like just allow them to be able to experiment with their products more essentially. And also a very, very another important thing is allow them to be able to engage with their customer more and more. Like for example, if you know that this item, if you have a resale platform on your website, right, and you know that this item sold out really quickly, like you launch it within 5 days, it's gone. So you do actually have an option because you know who purchased them. You just contact them, a few weeks later or a month after and just go, hey, have you worn it once or twice? Do you want to resell it back? Instead of actually recutting the whole thing and wait weeks and weeks for it to be delivered, using new resource when you don't have to. Those items that's been purchased in the first place probably only been worn once or twice and then now sitting in the wardrobe. Give them an opportunity to go, give it a nudge and go, you want to resell this? And then literally put it back on the platform. Someone else can actually purchase it.
Yeah. So are you seeing this work mainly with the sort of higher end luxury brands, or is it working across the board?
It works across the board. The hardest sort of group for it to work for would be fast fashion, if I'm being honest. Just because their products are not designed for it, it doesn't have to be, even though like 70-80% right now people are renting more for special occasion, but if we move into resales, almost like a premium everyday wear, workwear, blazer, really cool linens and all of that are doing amazingly well in resales. Like we've got one of the brand that we're not launched with them yet, but they actually one of our investor, They did, before they found us, they did a program resell in-house themselves, just to kind of like move, like sort of test and step into that circular economy to see what it's like. Didn't know what to expect at all, and call back the item for a couple months and give away like a voucher, like I don't know, like a $25 voucher kind of thing. They've got about 1,000 items sent back in within the first 2 or 3 months, and then literally 80% of them, so 800 items, were able to be refreshed and tiny repair, and then put it back up online at 50% of their original price. Literally 50% of those were gone in 24 hours, and then all 800 were gone in like less than 2 weeks. It was insane. So basically, the best thing about it is they've just made another 800 sales without having to produce anything new at all. And they've already made money full price once of all these items, and then basically made sales like at 50% of the price on exact the same item again. And majority of those people that come in and buy new to the brand, so that they now get like to acquire 600 people that actually never interact with the brand before.
Yeah. And I can imagine that. So if it was me and say I was looking for something and it was maybe a bit out of budget and I thought, oh, well, I'll rent it for 5 weeks, and then I get a taste of that brand and I think, actually, I really like this. The quality is amazing. Maybe I will buy something next time. I can imagine that that is helping to drive profitability as well, because these new customers that wouldn't potentially have bought the brand previously are now getting a taste and are now wanting to come back for more.
Yeah. And if you design your clothes really well, it's supposed to be super flattering on whoever wears it, and people would know, like 100%. Like when you wear something good, like it's good.
So, looking ahead, how do you see the concept of re-commerce evolving in the broader e-commerce landscape? I know we've talked about sort of the luxury and the sort of like just step down from luxury, and you're saying that fast fashion is not really designed for that now. Do you think that will evolve over time as fast fashion sees this as an opportunity? Will they maybe slightly increase their qualities, increase their prices, and reduce their output in order to join this re-commerce market?
I'm hoping. I mean, that's all we can hope for, right? I mean, having said that, though, a lot of fast fashion brands, like if we talk about H&M, Zara, or the big global one, actually have their own resale platform. They're not really capitalized on it. They just kind of like just create a platform where that customer can just like peer to peer, like do it themselves. I don't have the stat, unfortunately, of how well that's doing. And I know that it's a cheaper price point, but as long as it get being, keep in the circle, like in this cycle, like in the life cycle of a garment, rather than just going to the landfill straight away, is probably a positive thing. How I'm seeing this in the future for the e-commerce landscape is essentially, I want to say that, in the next 5 to 10 years, because we know that I think between 20 to 30% of most consumer wardrobe will come from the re-commerce market. It will be either rental or resale. And then they'll their product repair, right? Because consumer behavior is going that way. Essentially, brands is going to have to adapt to that, which means most of the e-com will need actually to integrate the re-commerce in some way, shape, or form and make it work for them. And if they don't think that the product works for them, then they're going to need to probably create a different type of product to be able to make it work. So that's kind of where I'm seeing it. Hence why I launched a startup.
No, well, I think it's definitely an exciting area of e-commerce that I hadn't even, to be honest, hadn't even thought about until this podcast popped up. So you've definitely opened my eyes to re-commerce. But I think that she definitely has a lot of clothes and a lot of bags and things like that that I often say, like, you haven't used this in like years. And so I can see that being the target market, as you can rent this out, and then when you want it in the future, you can just get it back. And in the meantime, you're making a bit of an income that you can then use to rent other stuff. And it's almost like swapping clothes, isn't it? So I think that it's interesting to see your journey through the 3 startups that you've done has basically been getting closer and closer to the solution. And I think what you've got now with Rntr is the solution, isn't it? If brands can do this and they can increase profitability and they can increase sustainability, and the customers can then have an experience of brands that they previously might not have been able to afford before. It's positive on all angles, isn't it?
Yeah, that's for us. We just require a little bit of customer, almost like both consumer and the brand behavior change a little bit, and then I think we're definitely heading that way. And I think it's important for brands to be able to have that sort of a second model, because if you think about it, we're going to run out of like fresh resource raw material. Like, we're going into the future where if we're growing crop and it's very limited, we're going to grow it for food, not for fashion. So if today we can no longer make new material, or like we can't produce any more new clothes, how are you going to survive as a business if you actually like, and we have enough clothes that we're going like that can go around and round for like probably 7. We do have the things already, we just have never really maximize the return on those items, not just maximize the return on the dollars only, but it's a maximize the return on all those like resources that we actually extract from the ground, all the sweat and tear of the human, the putting labor into it. Literally like 60% of the item sometimes doesn't even hit the shelf. It's like stay in the warehouse and then it just go to landfill. I think that they need to start thinking about a different model of like, well, how do I still achieve exact the same growth, make exact the same profit? Because we all need to get paid. It's a business, right? At the end of the day. But how do we get that better?
So do you think it is a bit of a mindset change then? Because maybe this is a wrong prejudice, but I almost see like secondhand clothes as something that's not as good as brand new clothes. So do you think it is the consumer, but also the brands need to, maybe they don't want to tarnish themselves with that sort of like secondhand? If we can get some case studies of larger, really successful companies doing this, then do you think that'll just open the floodgates?
I think a lot of fear is coming from, oh, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to affect my brand. I don't know. Like, any change is just creating fear, right? Because when you're running, let's say you're running $500 million company, and you kind of like, well, do I actually have to make change because it's running? So if I make change and then it suddenly drop, there's a lot of headcounts here that actually going to be affected. So I think brands are very careful. So case study definitely help. And also I tell every brand's exact the same way to like slowly move in. Like you don't have to actually like sell your business and then like do this, right? It's literally slowly move in, pilot testing, see what works for your brand, what doesn't work for your brand. If you think about it, it was kind of like back, I don't even know, like maybe 15, 20 years ago when e-com was starting. Do you remember that? The resistance of like, we like spend so much money in brick and mortar, and who has the most store seems to be the most successful one. That was the only way we can have access to clothing. Moving the industry into e-com was so painful. They were like, we're not doing it, we're not doing it. Even some of the biggest brand in Australia, like only until COVID hit, which was only a couple years ago, that's when they're like, oh wait, actually we need an e-com website. And I'm like, where have you been? This is where your customer hang out now. If you're not here, they're not gonna see you.
I agree. I think it is a big change, isn't it? And I think that part of it, I think, is mindset. I think this secondhand sort of is a bit tarnished. I think if we can get it to be more like pre-loved and resold and show that the brands can actually, if the brands can make money from it, they'll make it work. They'll spin their marketing in the best way possible to make it so that it's like this super sustainable and it's better for the planet and all that jazz. And so I think that the brands will make it work once they've proven the method. The stuff that you've raised about the questions that the brands have asked around how is this going to affect my normal sales, I think that the more case studies you can build around that is going to be great, because that would be my first question as well. It's like, okay, but I have a business that's doing well now. Why would I want to affect my normal sales? And then you said, well, 70% of these customers are not even buying from you anyway. They're coming in as brand new and then they're leaving. So we are just giving them an opportunity to try your brand. Yeah, I think you can definitely prove that'll work.
And also, it has been affecting your brand. You just don't know about it because there's a whole economy that's happening alongside.
Yeah. It's just happening on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, it's happening and you can't control the customer journey. Like someone will buy, like let's say a dress costs $1,000, right? And someone will buy it secondhand on Facebook Marketplace and they will receive it in a really shitty plastic bag and they would never ever understand why your clothes cost $1,000 because they don't get to experience that whole journey with you.
Yeah. Whereas if it comes in a nice tissue paper and box and a little note from the brand and stuff like that, and yeah, I can see that this would definitely.
Yeah, full customer service, all of these things is like it's just part of the brand. That's why you invest so much money in the marketing because you wanted to present it as this is a premium thing. You know how, like I said, we launched Oroton and I didn't win the brand because I'm charming. Well, I am charming, but not just that. But we built this really strong case study to show them that that product can be made like, over 500% return. So we purchased two of their dresses when it sold out in 2021, just like one style, two size 8 and 12, and it sold out. So we couldn't even get it on the brand. We got it from Facebook Marketplace, and it has both of them been worn once. So they sold it back to us at exact the same full price. It was like 590 or something like that. And we were like, all right, let's run it. Let's see how many times can we run this now. And I think by the end, like or 10 months or something, we ran each one of them out 24 times at 25% of the RRP. I was like, oh my God. And then we resell it. So we put it on, so we resell it at 50% of the price. So we made like another 50% of the price back. And I decided that like, hey, let's push this case study even further. So I asked the person who bought it secondhand. It was like, hey, have you worn it? Do you want to sell it back to us? And they did. So we actually resold that dress like 4 times. It was just insane. I literally have the case study. I gave it to the CEO, and she was like, look at all her whole team. It's just like, why are we not doing this?
So let me just get this right. That we need more detail on this. So your way of winning the business from this brand was to go out, buy 2 of their dresses, rent them out, resell them 4 times, and show that you could actually do it without them even knowing that, and present them a case study with their own products.
Yeah,
That is
exactly.
super smart. Like, that is so smart. Because
Thank
who
you.
could say no to that? Who could say no to, look, here's your products? People did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, some people were like, oh, we're not quite ready for it. And I'm just like, you're just so scared because you know it's working. You're so scared that it's going to take away your sale. You're so scared of change. And I think we didn't really, like, I mean, it's a new innovation, right? To be honest, when I step in, I just don't know. Like, that's why we were testing it because I don't know how many times can I rent this out. And the fact it was silk and it was like bright pink silk. So when I presented the case study, one from the brand was actually look at us and just go, the first question was like, this item can be dry cleaned 24 times? And I'm like, you don't even know your product. They're like, yeah, but because no one's ever wear it 24 times, like one person. It's just, yeah. And then the product team was so amazed by it. So yeah, we basically, like before we proposed to them, we wanted to make sure that we know that it's going to work. And for us, it's like now that we know that it's working. And we're talking about a brand that just launched 2021, right? Rntr has no database. Rntr has like no audience, nothing. And we have our website and we put a few $1,000s on Facebook and we kind of run it and we just grow it that way. And we were able to like make that much money. Imagine what the brand can do with that on traffic.
Exactly. So when you said before, one of the pushbacks from one of the bigger brands was, how is this going to affect my sales of new products? In my mind now, if you're saying that you can prove that you can sell that and rent it out and resell that secondhand item for 500 times or 500%, why would you even want to sell it brand new first anyway? Like, if you can take that one item and you can rent it out multiple times and then resell it and buy it back and resell it and buy it back, why would you want to just sell it once for brand new? That it begs the question as, do you see this as the way e-commerce is going, that it's not going to be brand new sales? Everything will just be rental and everything will just be resale because it seems profitable.
Yeah, the brand new sales will still be important for cash flow, I say, because Well, it depends. I mean, I would say that like not every single item will do exact the same 20, like 500%, right? Just like when you make a sale, there will be some that do well and some that doesn't. But when you sell it off straight away, you get that high margin straight away. And I think it will be important for cash flow. And that's why I think like this is a really complementary that like actually get you to get more return, like work your stock harder essentially. You're only going to get your, like when you do a collection, you get your wholesale, you get your store retail, and then you get your like online digital, and then just add on top, get your e-commerce as well. So like make those stock harder. But you're right, like I mean, it's already exists. There's brand out there that only selling secondhand item. There's brand out there that only like just renting out items. It's just the way that is the future is going.
Well, very interesting conversation today we've had. So a couple of closing questions here. These are totally off topic now. So a couple of closing ones. So who in the world of e-commerce would you most like to take to lunch if you were going to go out and have lunch with someone, and either they're your hero or they're like someone who you find is a real interesting person? Who would you like to take to lunch in the e-commerce space?
I mean, look, to be honest, I probably would love to take the founder of Shopify to lunch or something.
Okay, last question. What one thing can e-commerce professionals do right now to boost their profitability?
Yeah, definitely explore it because it's almost like a free money there. There's no downside. Yeah.
Certainly sounds like free money to me. If you can sell something once and then sell it again and again and again, why not?
Yeah, have a platform ready for that. Even if just to capitalize your bestseller, like more than it can, bring it back, sell it again, bring it back, sell it again. Yeah.
I really liked the option you said where if something sells out, email those customers, ask if you can buy it back from them, and then resell it again. I think that to me is a way to deal with out of stocks that I've never even thought of before.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, right? If you don't have the platform ready for that, you can't bring your stock back. What are you going to do with it? And also, you can't make it manually either. You have to have it all automate. The seller needs to be able to upload their listing really easily. The buyer needs to be able to buy it really easily. Because if it's all manual, it's going to eat into the margin that you're supposed to get.
Interesting. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Shanya. So where can customers get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more about Rntr?
I'm super active on LinkedIn. If you search my name, Shanya Suppasiritad, I'm often there. And also our website, Get Rntr, Rntr.com. That's where I would be.
Right, okay. Well, thank you very much for your time today. I will look forward to when this one comes out and see what the audience think.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Cheers. The e-commerce profitability show is brought to you by Link My Books. To find out more about Link My Books and how to accurately automate your e-commerce bookkeeping to ensure profitable growth, visit linkmybooks.com and then make sure to search for e-commerce profitability in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Link My Books, thanks for listening.